my channel, and happy Christmas Eve. I am so excited to be able to spend some of the Christmas time with you guys and Christmas Eve, and I hope that you're having a really nice holiday and getting to spend time with your loved ones. Today we're going to do a really fun DIY project, so I hope that you enjoy watching it and that you can kind of just sit back, relax, and enjoy. So today we are going to be making two pieces of DIY art. I want to update some art in our house. I've been wanting to do this for a little bit and I just haven't had the time, so today is the day we're doing it. I have one piece of art that I want to update from what it currently looks like. It's a store-bought piece of art. It's from, I think, like Marshall's many years ago, and it just doesn't fit the vibe of the house anymore, and so I don't want to just get rid of it. So I'm going to put our art over what already exists and kind of update the store-bought piece to match the vibe of our home now. And the other piece of art we are going to make from scratch. So I have two pieces of art in our dining room that are the same size and kind of mirroring each other. And these were pieces of art that were given to me when I was in college. I've had them for a million years. Someone was getting rid of them and gave them to me, and they serve their purpose, but they just don't really fit the house anymore. I've kind of outgrown the look of those, so I want to update them, and I want to do some kind of fabric art on them, but I want to try and make it look like torn canvas if I can. So I have an idea of how I want each of these to look. If it works out, it's going to be a super cool look. It will be really like a statement piece in the house, and I'm really hopeful that it's going to work. I think that it will work. So we're going to give it a go, and we're going to do our best and see what happens. That is the plan for today, and this is actually our last video of DIY December. Because it's Christmas Eve, we will have our video today, and then we will go back to our regular schedule of videos on every Sunday. So every single Sunday, I will post a video for you guys to be able to watch and join in on these projects with me and follow along with me on updating my home and doing some renovations and things like that. So our next video will be out on Sunday. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed DIY December. I've really had a great time putting together videos and sharing those with you. I hope you had as much fun as I did. And we've got lots of great stuff still to come on the channel. So make sure that you like and subscribe so that you can see the new videos I put out every single week and join our community. We're going to start working on our projects. Alright guys, so I'm all set up on the floor. I like to kind of do art on the floor a lot of the time just because I think it's more comfortable, I think it gives me more room, and I don't have to worry as much if it's slightly messy because it's not a table. It's easier for me to clean the floor. So this is where we'll be. And I have our piece of art here. So it looks like this. It's two pieces that kind of go together. And I got this, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. And it just doesn't really fit the vibe of the house anymore. So I want to update it. The first thing that I need to do is definitely clean it because it looks like it's been through some things. The idea is that I'm going to take some of these bamboo straws, and because they're bamboo, you can't really tell that they're straws. They don't really give that vibe off. And so I did something like this before with a vase that I had. I made a vase with these bamboo straws, and I put dried florals in the straws around the vase and then like a LED light in it. I can put a clip in of what that looks like so you can see that as well. So I want to kind of do something in that style for this piece of art. And so my thought was that I could take joint compound and put it over the back of the piece of art, just the entire back, cover it in joint compound and let it have a little bit of texture, let it be a little bit on kind of the messy side where it's not perfectly smooth and laid even. Just let it kind of look natural. And I think, and we'll see how this goes, but I think that I'll be able to cut our straws to different sizes and lay them into the joint compound all along the bottom so that it dries into the joint compound, and then paint it all and put some dried flowers in there and have that kind of be our wall art. That is my thought process. I had these straws left over from when I made the vase, and I've also done another piece of art in our house with joint compound, so I have some of that left over too. So we're gonna give it a try, and if it doesn't look good or if the straws don't stick, then no big deal. I wasn't really feeling this piece of art in our house anyways, and we can make something different. I'm gonna start by just cleaning the whole thing so that everything sticks really well. Okay, so I grabbed some frog tape and I'm just going to tape off all the edges of the frame so that we don't get anything on it. Okay, so I taped everything off and I laid the straws out to see if I even had enough because it is left over from another project. And I could probably stand to have like 5 or 6 more straws to get it totally packed. But I think it's going to be fine. There's a little bit of spacing in each side. You can see like where maybe a couple more straws could fit in. What I'm going to do instead is just slightly space out all of my straws so that they're more kind of like this situation, and I really don't think it'll be a huge deal. I don't think you'll notice much, especially when the background has the joint compound on it. We can start applying our joint compound. I am using this all-purpose joint compound. It comes out like kind of a gray color like this, and then it's going to dry totally white, so that's kind of how you know when it's done. There's also joint compounds that are pink and dry white so that you know that it's totally dry. This is just the one that I like to use. I've used it on a bunch of other projects and it works really well. All right, so we're just going to go for it. We're going to hope that this doesn't go past the tape and everything works out nicely. So I'm just kind of roughly getting a base layer down that is about the same thickness all the way across. And then I have another tool that I'm going to use from when I did my joint compound art before that I found really helpful in kind of leveling everything. Okay, so what I have is this, and I think that it is for like plastering walls and things like that, or tiling. I like to use it to make texture in my joint compound wall art. I use this side to make the even grooves. So what we're going to use today is the flat side to just kind of smooth everything out to be a little bit more even. If you like it this textured, you can stop here and you don't need to smooth it out. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with how this is looking. I like to make sure that I check all the corners to make sure that it's not too thin there where you can see through before moving on. What I'm going to do now is start to lay in my straws. I'm just going to lightly press them into the joint compound, and then we can cut our straws as well. So don't worry if you get joint compound on your straw. We're going to paint them anyways, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm just leaving a tiny gap in between each of the straws, and this is actually working out really nicely because the joint compound is pressing between the straws, if you can tell, and that's going to help it hold on even better. The fact that we were a few straws short was totally fine. Okay, so this is our first side all done. We're gonna let this dry and then we'll paint it and take the tape off super carefully because we do have it kind of pressed against the tape, so you want to be super careful doing that. And I'm going to repeat this exact same process on the other side. Super easy. And we actually had this many straws left over for this side, so we had more than enough. Alright guys, so it is day 2 of our DIY art project. Our art is now fully dried. Both pieces are completely dry and ready to go. So this is what it's looking like. You can see that with the joint compound, if you put it on a little bit thicker, it does crack like this. But personally, I like that look and I knew that going into it. So I'm fine with how that looks. I think it makes it really interesting and cool. So a couple tips if you're going to do this particular art piece. What I did once all the straws were in was I ran my finger over any extra joint compound that was existing between the straws and spread it over the straws. I put a layer, very, very thin, of joint compound over the straws just with my finger, just ran it over, just to help really hold those straws in place. You're not going to see it it's just going to look like the texture that already exists in this piece. But I really do think that that helped to make the straws a lot stronger. So I would suggest doing that. The second thing that I would recommend if you're going to do this is a couple hours after you put everything on and the joint compounds on and the straws are on, I would recommend taking your tape off very carefully. Because I came back and tested the tape a couple hours after just to make sure that the joint compound wasn't going to stick to it. And it does stick to it if you get any on the edges. So it was lifting it a little bit when I took the tape off, but because it wasn't 100% dry, I was able to just pat it back down, no big deal. But if you let it dry completely, I do think that it would crack your joint compound and mess up your art. So I would say 2-3 hours after you put everything on, take your tape off, let it dry completely overnight, and then put your tape back on. That's what I did. I think that's the best way to do it, and it makes it so that your joint compound stays in place. And then putting the tape back on makes it so that you can paint your piece without getting any paint on your frame. Obviously, if you're working on a canvas and you're building a frame, you don't have this issue. Those are my suggestions. That is what I learned. And so now we are going to paint our piece and then it will be ready for us to put our flowers in and hang. I was looking through just some of like the acrylic paints that I have for just like regular painting. And I had this one that is a matte folk art paint. It's acrylic and it's in sap green. And I thought it was super beautiful. So that's the color I'm going to go for. I was drawn to it. My gut told me to go with it. So I'm going to give it a go. And worst case scenario, if you ever paint something, you don't like it, you can get a primer paint over it and redo the color. It's not the end of the world by any means. So I'm going to give it a go. And then you'll know if you like this color based on what I do. Because I have it all taped off, I'm just gonna put some paint onto here and we can spread it out with our brush. The other thing with this piece is to really make sure you get into all the little cracks that are in the joint compound, in between your straws, all that kind of stuff, because you will see white showing through. And we're going to move on to our next piece of art, which is going to have a few more steps to it. Since we're making this art completely from scratch rather than taking a store-bought item and just going over it, we are going to have to do a few more things to it. It's also just a little bit more. This one is going to be a little bit more of an experiment. It's something that I haven't seen anyone do in this way. I've seen a lot of fabric art be done, but more so with rippling and texture to it. I want to do something that is slightly different, and I saw a picture of someone that had like a animal skin on their wall, and it kind of reminded me of like a torn canvas. So fun fact about me that I haven't shared on here is that I'm a vegetarian, so I don't want an animal skin on my wall, but I did like the idea of kind of that torn canvas look. What I want to do is take these two pieces of canvas, which are the same size as the art that's currently in our dining room, and I like that size for that space. And I want to kind of have the background be black, and then I want to take some fabric and kind of cut it with rounded edges and torn pieces to it, so like instead of just being one big rectangle, have it be torn and folded, and that kind of look kind of like a canvas is peeling. And I wanted to kind of have it be multi-dimensional in the coloring that we use and in the way that we kind of fold and tear the fabric. We're going to use these two canvases. I got them on sale at Hobby Lobby. So they were $16.99, and I think they were normally like 50 or 60 bucks. So it was a huge discount. We're going to paint the background black to start off with, focusing mainly on the edges because the center will be covered by our fabric. And then when we're all done with this, we're also going to make a wooden frame to go around these to kind of finish them off. I want to start by getting the black on here so that it can dry and we can get some fabric on, because that is going to take 24 hours to dry. So I'd like to get that on so that tomorrow we can paint the fabric. Also, don't mind this chair. This is just here because our Christmas tree is in the place that this chair normally is in our front room. So it's just here for December. Our canvas is going to be hanging vertically, so top and bottom. It won't look like it does right now. I just have it like this so it's easier for me to reach. The parts of the canvas that you're going to see that are not going to be covered by fabric are going to be the outside edges. The center is going to be totally covered by fabric. What I want to do is get black paint onto the outside edges so that it's covered and ready to go, and then we'll be able to put our fabric on. So I'm going to leave the center as it is because there's no point in covering in black since you won't see it. So we're just gonna start painting it. And really for this part, don't worry about it being too covered and opaque. If you have some of the canvas showing through, that is gonna look even better because we want that torn canvas look. If it's completely pure black, it's probably not going to look as authentic as maybe we want it to. So I'm just gonna roughly paint the outside. I want it to look rough. If you want it to be more polished, then you can kind of take your time and do it like that. And I'm kind of painting it in like a cross-hatching pattern, which just means X's, because it's just going to give more of that undone look that I want. So you'll see me kind of going back and forth with it. Okay, so this is the base of our canvas. Right now it looks spooky, so just stick with me. It's gonna work out. I know it looks a little bit weird, but it'll kind of pull together. It won't look like this in the end. Just gotta trust the process. We are gonna let this dry, and then we'll be able to lay our canvas onto here so that it can dry overnight and we can paint it tomorrow. Alright guys, so it's been a couple hours. The paint has dried on our canvas and I have gotten even comfier since you last saw me. Now we are ready to add the fabric onto our canvas since the paint is dried. I went ahead and did it on one of our canvases just to make sure that it was going to lay flat. And so I have this white fabric here. Honestly, I got this fabric so long ago because I've been wanting to do this project for quite a while that I don't even remember what kind of fabric it was. I think it was maybe just a cotton fabric. It was just a very standard fabric. It was super inexpensive. I got it at Joann, and I think I got 2 yards of it, but I ended up only needing a little over a half a yard total for this. I have the fabric rough cut out, but we need to add in the cuts for our folds. So I want to lay it on top of the canvas to see where I want to cut, and then we'll be able to glue it down. Okay, so right now our canvas is completely dry. There is no Mod Podge on it. So I want to just kind of make some cuts to make folds and see what I like and what looks good. So there's not really like a rhyme or reason to it. I'm just kind of making some cuts and seeing what I like. And I like to kind of soften the edges on any of the cuts that I make. I don't really want any pointy edges. paintings are done, ready to go. The fabric is sealed on. I actually only needed to do the one coat of just Mod Podge. It is on there really well. There's a little bit of like curling on the edges, but that's just because I didn't put like a super heavy coat of Mod Podge on the edges. And I personally like that look because it adds to the effect of canvas peeling. If you don't like that the edges are lifting, then just add a little bit more of your Mod Podge there. So we're gonna finish up with our last couple of steps. We need to paint the fabric. So I have a few different colors of acrylic paint that I've pulled that we can work with. I cut the wood for our frame. We have 4 pieces right here for our frame, and it's basically just gonna box it out. I think that the measurements for this particular canvas were 48 and 26. I did make a mistake in cutting. I've done this before. I don't know why. I can't remember this, but every time that I want to make a box frame around a painting and not an angled frame where it's like a traditional photo frame where it has the angled 45-degree cuts, I always measure just the length of the top and the sides, which leaves me like an inch short because it needs to come over to account for the width of the frame. I've done this once before with a painting, and with that particular one, I actually just put like corner covers over it. It was this painting right here actually, so kind of exposing myself here, but I cut this wood wrong, this trim right here. And so I put little corner covers over it so that you can't see it, which actually I really like. I think it turned out really nice, but for this one, it doesn't really work. So we're gonna see, I either have to go run out and grab some more wood tonight to frame it out, or we may only have one of our paintings with wood for the video, and then I'll just get more wood and frame the other one later. So it happens, you know, mistakes happen. We'll see what I have time for, if I'm able to get more wood. If not, then you'll see one painting with a frame and you'll know that the other one didn't get a frame yet. Just know that when you make your frame, not to do the same thing as me, and to measure out including the width of your wood. We're going to paint our painting, and then we will just super simple take some little finishing nails and tack our wood into the canvas here so that it's all connected. For this particular painting, I'm not going to stain the frame. I'm going to leave the wood raw and in its natural color. I think it looks really pretty with the black. If you want to stain yours, you totally can. It's just personal preference. I really like the look of the raw wood against this paint. All right, so I got a couple of different colors that we can kind of work with here. Obviously, you can do any colors you want. This is just my personal preference and style. So I have a couple different tans, a brown and a white. I'm going to use both brushes and a sponge for this and just kind of go for it. I don't really have a plan. I think I'm going to concentrate the dark colors in the center and kind of fade it out to like a lighter, whiter color on the outside. But other than that, I don't really know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go for it. So we're going to, you know, mess around with some color and see what happens. Alright guys, so this is how the painting is looking. So I'm going to do this exact same style on our other painting. But before we do that, I want to frame this one out. This painting's still a little bit wet. It dries pretty fast, so we're just going to be careful while framing it. It's a pretty simple process. I'm going to do it so that the frame is higher than the canvas. I like that look. You could also do it sideways like this. It's entirely up to you. You want to line it up with your edges. I'm taking some little finishing nails that I have. It's just like a little kit. You want a really tiny nail to tap into your canvas. So what I'm gonna do is take a couple of these nails, probably like 3 of them for each piece of wood, and tap the nail into the ends and the middle point into the canvas so that the wood is attached to the canvas. And then we'll be able to put a little picture hook on the back and hang it. This is what it looks like with the nails in, and we're just going to do the same thing all the way around with our wood, and then it'll be ready to hang. Well, I hope that you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you're having a really cozy, nice Sunday morning on your Christmas Eve. I think that our two pieces of wall art turned out really, really beautifully. I'm super happy with how everything came out. I would love to hear what you guys think about them, and if there was anything you would do differently, or if you're going to try and do it yourself. I'd love to hear your feedback, so leave me a comment if you have any ideas or are going to give it a try. And we will have a new video on Sunday, so don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can catch all of my new videos, and I will see you guys on Sunday for another really fun project.